Yo, shalom everybody. This is Black Ice. Um, this is Black Ice of the Black Narrative. I am solo tonight. Keith and I is still enjoying our break from the broadcast. Uh, Keith have been recording rants of his, which are posted every Wednesday from now until like mid-December. So he's been cooking on his end. But overall, we both been doing well. We both been enjoying our break. You know, it's a lot to do broadcast like twice a week, year round. So usually around this time, we take like a 2 month break. We probably go back live around January, I guess, depending on how we feeling and what's going on. And I felt like we took a break at a good time, considering everything's been going on. Because I was just, I think we both were just done with so much of the foolishness going on in the world and even within our own community. So, we kind of enjoying the downtime. But we've been active on like 6 Zeros and Twitter, and we'll be starting back up with the lunch break on 6 Zeros really soon. Jay been taking this time working on his platform, and which has been going great. So he's now, congratulations to him. He's now on Android and iOS, so there's no excuse not to use this app. You don't have to use the website anymore. You can use the app, and that runs well. And as time goes on, he'll continue to make improvements with that as well. Yeah, but tonight, this morning rather, I woke up this morning, saw the Twitter feed, and first thing I saw was another article. Black in the Uish again. This is the New York Times, and then shortly after that, I listened to Professor Black Truth, and he kind of covered it. He did cover it in pretty good detail, but I'm just kind of giving my unique perspective on everything, and we've been pretty quiet during this whole ordeal because we just so tired of like there's so many layers to it, man. If you try to make things so black and white, it's really gray. It's many layers. There's a lot of things going on, and we're in the middle of warfare right now. Like seriously, like not just spiritually, physically, worldwide. It's a lot going on, and in the midst of all these, and basically it's all distractions. There's a lot of distractions getting thrown at us to the point you can't even keep up with it all. It's that much now. So so we're gonna do it. I'm gonna just go across some key points from this article, and then from there, kind of show you how white supremacy use these tools to distract us again, and if you don't pay attention to it, it's easy to get caught up in it, and how we do, we like to go straight to the source, about certain things, right? So this article here, Black and the Jewish again. Opinion against essay, and it was written by Michael Eric Dyson. If you know who he is, then he is a black writer, professor at Vanderbilt University, but he's a coon basically. He think he's so hip, cause he like to mix in hip hop lyrics with his lectures and whatnot, and I've seen him speak on the Breakfast Club and other platforms, and he always rubbed in the wrong way because he's an ally to white supremacy, and one thing I have noticed that too many of us are so distracted by the immigration and the coons and all that stuff that's going on that we forget who the real enemy is, was just white supremacy, the system of white supremacy. Perfect example. I recently saw Wakanda Forever. Thankfully, I didn't spend any money on that, so because I already knew what it was going to be about. But I just want to see it to prove my point, and it did. And that's the case in point right there. The whole movie is about you got these two nations fighting each other, but the system of white supremacy got off clean the whole movie. They got so distracted with each other and missed the true enemy of it all. So same thing that's reflective that we got going on today, right? So I wanted to read part of this, and what caught my eye, whatnot. But recently Kyrie Irving, his suspension been lifted. He's been playing, and I like the way, I guess they won, and then they had the post game conference, and again the media, they try to put him in the corner again because they're asking about Uh, the Israelite group, the IUIC, I guess there was in great numbers, at least 100 people outside of the arena of the game in support of Irving. And they're trying to get his opinion on it. He's like, "Yo, I wasn't there," and let's talk about the game. Which he answered it well. Even though Kyrie had, he did apologize. He did, he did what he did. You know what I'm saying? I can't say that. I heard the clip and I heard the rest of the press conference, and you know, I guess he handled the best he knew how without being complete, like dealing with a public lynching. But you know how this game goes. Anyway, Mike Eric Dyson, he starts off the article, like the very first thing he says. He starts off the article with this quote: "What effective measures would the collective Negro community take against a vicious anti-Semitism?" Rabbi Everett Gendler shared his question with Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. at a meeting at Rabbinical Assembly in 1968, 10 days before King was murdered. Now, nearly 55 years later, the actions of two iconic black figures demand that we ask a version of this question again. Ye, the hip-hop artist and fashion designer formerly known as Kanye West, has unleashed a rash of anti-Semitic tirades, while the Brooklyn Nets basketball superstar Kyrie Irving posts on social media and linked to a documentary Latin with anti-Semitic views. So already, Mike Eric Dyson is just like he rolling with the white supremacist narrative already, like this. And I noticed a lot of articles have been written on this whole thing. It's not an equal just reporting. Like it's like they use key words to automatically demonize these people. And they not to say, you know. Kanye is the most pro-black person because he's not. We already know his history and what he does. I mean, the last pro-black thing he probably done was get on live TV with Michael Myers and say that President Bush don't like black people. That's probably like the last pro-black stance he may have done, to my knowledge. And I would give him credit for that. But we know his lifestyle and decisions he's made. Kyrie Irving, same. Honestly, I don't follow basketball like that, so I don't know that much about him. But it's a celebrity, so I mean, it's I'm not looking up to them, and no one should. But oftentimes they try to, society trying to put these celebrities as our leaders, and they're not. Yeah. So moving on, the actions of Ye and Irving bring spent tropes of Jewish control to the surface. Their provocations also compel us to grapple with sometimes conflicting Jewish and black views of race and privilege, and how the suffering in each community shapes in their identities and fuels their fight against bigotry. It is painful and a bit embarrassing to admit that African Americans and Jewish have, for one reason or another, competed, quarreled, and jostled with each other to gain attention and empathy for our struggles and injustices we confront. And you notice I'm saying Jewish for a reason, because if you've been watching the channel for a while, you say their name too many times, I get pulled, I get striked, I get blocked, or whatever. So we try to keep it down to the Jewish people, but you know who I'm referring to. None of that can blunt embodying truth. We are, after all, old friends and lovers, sometimes rivals, with all the affection and bitterness and that such a relationship evokes. Black anti-Semitism is real, so is Jewish racism, from the horrendous bigotry of white Jews against black Jews to profoundly anti-black statements of David Horowitz, who called Barack Obama an evil man and an anti-American radical. Yeah, so he trying to say like he trying to walk that fine line, but we know that's not the case, right? But here we are together in the same boat as fierce waves of hate, threatening to sink our vessels in the ocean of American opportunity. To shift metaphors, we should remember the ways that our communities have historically passed the baton to one another in a long relay for justice. Until we see anti-Semitism as a toxic species of the white supremacy that threatens black security and democracy's future, none of us are truly safe. Yay, vitriol spilled onto social media when he posted a screenshot of text exchange with the rap mogul Sean Diddy Combs, accusing Diddy of being controlled by the Jewish. Ye threatened to use Combs as an example to show the Jewish people that told you to call me that no one can threaten or influence me. Ye then also posted what he awakened that he was going, DCON 3 on Jewish people. And we know that, if you're watching this broadcast, more likely you know the reality is of who really is controlling all these things and who's pulling all these strings, right? We know what it is, right? But what's probably been the most, between listening to Professor Black Truth broadcast this morning and the tweets this morning from this article, and then people were going in on Michael Eric Dyson about the article, which is great. Black people have caught on, but then you had like the Jewish people under his profile think, "Oh, I'm so glad you wrote this. Oh, you made such great points." So, I posted right under that. I was just like, I hope in the future that he talks about the other side of history, about the 3,000 Confederate Jewish soldiers, the Jewish slave owners, the one that financed the slave trade and auctions and the music industry. I mean, we got a long list of atrocities, and even how the Ethiopian Jews are treated in the state of Israel, with the forced birth control on the women, and let's go on and on. And so, of course, first thing the Jewish guy said, well, you have a source for this. I quickly pulled a handful of links and right back at him. And of course, he didn't, he never admitted to these atrocities. And I told him that Michael Eric Dyson's used that quote out of context as well. And he's like, well, do you have a link to that? And I'm like, sure, and so of course I know he was never going to they stay on code. They're never going to admit the atrocities that they've done to us. But I posted those links for others to see it because still too many of us are not aware what's going on. And so, and we had a time that, as you come across more of our own people, it's not that they only need to be educated on Black history, they need to be educated on the Jewish history too. Because even like some of my folks, the older people in my family, they still think they were allies and whatnot. And that's never the case. And even the Jewish guy that commented under me on Twitter this morning saying how Jewish people and Black people all have that good relationship with each other. And I was I didn't reply back because I already made my statement. All right, I posted my links. I was done. I had no need to go back and forth. I told them I'm not trying to convince you to see otherwise. It's just for other people to see and read for themselves. But yeah, we always had a relationship with the Jewish people, but it's always been a one-sided relationship to their benefit, right? And I'm and now I think about I meant to bring that up real quick. If you haven't seen it on our channel yet, you can just go to here. You go to our sorry about that. So you go to the front page of our channel. Okay. Yeah, I have a playlist here called The History of Jewish People. And this is a broadcast we've done over the past 2 years. Like, we kind of ahead of the game with some of this stuff, right? And hopefully get a chance to go back to check this out because we had a broadcast about the Jewish influence and infiltration of the civil rights movement, which is a really good one. And it showed who really owned these civil rights organizations, who were really pulling the strings, who was making the money, what they do with the money, and how deep did it evolve. And then we have here the lynching of Leo Frank. This is more about the history of the ADL. ADL, the same organization that Kyrie had to give $500,000 to, right? But they're very anti-Black from their very beginning, right? Because I want to say 1913, this guy named Leo Frank, who was a Jewish manager of a pencil factory in Marietta, Georgia, he sexually assaulted, raped, and murdered a young girl named Mary Fagan, and then trying to put the blame on 2 Black employees that was there. And I think he had one of them take the body and put it down in the basement, and then handwritten the letter and had him make it sound like he did it, like he really trying to frame this Black man for what he's done. And even in Georgia doing that, and you know how racist the South is, right? Even now, but especially back then. And the evidence is so overwhelming towards Leo Frank, they knew the Black guy didn't do it. So they got Leo Frank. And then and once they arrested him and trying to get put to death, but Leo Frank was connected because he also the president of the B'nai B'rith, which is like the Jewish Freemasonry here, and then and he had a relationship with the governor to commute his sentence. And so, but the residents of Marietta were not allowing it, so they went in and broke him out of jail and they hung him, right? And from there, the ADL started, where they've been changing the narrative, saying he was just a victim of anti-Semitism, that he didn't do that murder. He didn't commit the murder. He did. He was proven guilty. And also from the group of white people came the recreation of the KKK, the second phase of it. So it's funny, how that one like case come out at KKK and ADL, how they had to share history here, and we had the black man in the middle of all of this, right? And then we also covered the victim mentality, the untold story of Israel was a good one. Throw rocks in the hiding hands was a good one. And then we had one about the true identity of the Israelites. So we have a playlist here. Definitely take some time and check it out if you get a chance. So I'm not gonna get too deep into that, but just kind of like I'm gonna kind of be weaving in and out of different things, right? So the main thing that stood out to me was this quote that he used. What effective measures would the collective Negro community take against a vicious anti-Semitism? And Professor Black Truth, he stated how this quote was taken out of context and came from a whole different conversation. But the conversation wasn't even about what this article was implying, or essay you want to call it, but how it was directed towards some of the other black leaders. And so, of course, I went digging and diving and everything, and it had a link here which led to a book, but I found the actual document. I want to see if I can pin it in the comments or something after I post this. But this is the guy here. This is the rabbi here that asked the question to Dr. King. And apparently they have a relationship. One thing black people have to learn is it's a very great history of Dr. King. Maybe towards the end he probably saw the error of his ways towards the end, maybe, but a lot of his career he played ball with these people. Like he was a willful tool for them, and I also got a documentary about that here on the channel. How it's not no great revolution coming from me. Actually, Malcolm X exposed all this from a speech he did called "Message to the Grassroots," and that speech wasn't on video, but it's plenty of audio across the internet of that speech, because this is the speech he did. He did this months after I Have a Dream speech. So it's kind of like a rebuttal, like a rap beef, right? Dr. King, I Have a Dream speech, and then and a few months later in October, Malcolm X did a speech called Message to the Grassroots in response to that. And Malcolm X did this speech in the Christian church in Detroit, I believe. And he broke down the whole game, and you got to think about it. They didn't have internet back then, but had radio shows and newspapers, and it just show you how, even people document all their atrocities and the things they're doing. We just got to read. They say you want to have something for black people, put it in a book, and sadly that's true. But you read, a lot of that stuff is there, right? And so, as Malcolm X breaking everything down, Malcolm X was a willful tool for the Bullsh. Because the NAACP didn't get the first president after 50 years. And the civil rights era was a great hustle. I mean, millions and millions and millions of dollars were being made that we never saw. They went to the Bullsh community. They passed money around to each other, right? And then, and you had the black faces, I had the black men as a face of it. And for a long time, and they use the same playbook to this day, same thing, right? But anyway, let's go to the source. But the source of that quote came from a conversation that came from a book here, and I think this is it. Yeah. So Michael Eric Dyson, he started right here. What effective measures would the collective Negro community take against a vicious anti-Semitism? But we start from the beginning of this paragraph here. And this is on page 9 of this document. And this is the Rabbi Gentler here. What steps have been undertaken and what success have been noted in convincing the anti-Semitic and anti-Israel Negroes, such as Rat Brown, Stoley Carmichael, and McKissick, to desist from the anti-Israel activity? Right? This is a totally different conversation already. What effective measure would the collective Negro community take against the vicious anti-Semitism against the militants and the rabble-rousing of the Browns, Carmichaels, and Powells? So this is a whole different conversation they're having here. They're not talking about this Bullsh people. They talk about the state of Israel, because they still, the state of Israel was created around 1948, and then they still building up this narrative there. So even back then, you can't speak down or speak ill of this country that's been created, right? Of the state that's been created. So let's read a little bit further. Have your contributions from Bullsh fallen off considerably? Do you feel the Jewish community is copping out on the civil rights struggle? What would you say if you were talking to a Negro intellectual, an editor of a national magazine, and were told, as I have been, that he supported the Arabs against Israel because colors are all important in this world? In the editor's opinion, the Arabs are colored Asians and the Israelis are white Europeans. Will you point out that more than half of Israelis are Asian Jews with the same pigmentation as Arabs? Or will you suggest that American Negroes should not form judgment on the basis of color? What seems to you an appropriate or effective response? So they asking them, how are you going to respond to this? What can we expect to hear from you when somebody asks you about this? So this lets you know what type of, this listen to the tone of the conversation so far, right? But Dr. King's answer was interesting. Dr. King responded, "Thank you. I'm glad that the question came up because I think it is one that must be answered honestly and forthrightly. First, let me say there's absolutely no anti-Semitism in the black community in a historic sense of anti-Semitism." Read that again. Dr. King, first, let me say there's absolutely no anti-Semitism in the black community. That part was not mentioned in this article over here at all. He stopped after that question and he went on with his own little rant here. But you see here what Dr. King was saying. But keep going further. Anti-Semitism historically has been pushed on two false, sick, evil assumptions. One that unfortunately perpetuated even by many Christians, all too many as a matter of fact, that is the notion that the religion of Judaism is a themia, which I had to be honest, I had to look that up. I think means hatred. That was the first basis of anti-Semitism in historic sense. Second, a notion would be perpetuated by sick men like Hit, I want to say this dude's name, and others that the Jewish is innately inferior. Now, in these two senses, there's virtually no anti-Semitism in the black community. There's no philosophical anti-Semitism or anti-Semitism in the sense of historic evils and anti-Semitism that have been with us all too long. I think we also have to say that anti-Semitism, which we find in the black community, is almost completely an urban northern ghetto phenomenon, virtually non-existent in the South. I think it comes into being because the Negro in the ghetto confronts the Jewish in two dissimilar roles. On the one hand, he confronts the Jewish in the role of being his most consistent and trusted ally in the struggle for justice and civil rights movement, which we know we've been tricked into. Probably more than any other ethnic group, the Jewish community has been sympathetic and has stood as an ally to the Negro in his struggle for justice, as so it seems. But we know what the truth is about that. On the other hand, the Negro confronts the Jewish in the ghetto as his landlord in many instances. He confronts the Jewish as the owner of the store around the corner where he pays more for what he gets. In Atlanta, for instance, I live in the heart of the ghetto, and it's an actual fact that my wife, and doing her shopping, has to pay more for food than the whites had to pay in Buckhead and Lenox. We tested it. We had to pay 5 cents and sometimes 10 cents a pound more for almost anything that we get than they had to pay out in Buckhead and Lenox, where the rich people out of Atlanta live. So he admitting that they charge more for food and resources in his own hood that has less money, charge more than the affluent community, but who own those stores, right? The fact that the Jewish storekeeper or landlord is not operating on the basis of Jewish ethics. He operates simply as a marginal businessman. Consequently, the conflicts come into being. I remember when we was working in Chicago 2 years ago, we had numerous rent strikes on the west side. And it's unfortunately true that the persons who we had to conduct these strikes against were, in most instances, Jewish landlords. Now, sociologically, that came into being because there was a time when the west side of Chicago was almost a Jewish community. It was a Jewish ghetto, so to speak, and when the Jewish community started moving out into the other areas, they still owned a property there, even after they moved out, and all the problems of the landlord came into being. We were living in a slum apartment owned by a Jewish in Chicago, along with a number of others, and we had to have a rent strike. We were paying $94 for 4 rundown, shabby rooms, and we would go out on our open housing marches in Gage Park and other places, and we discovered that whites with 5 sanitary, nice new rooms, apartment with 5 rooms out in those areas were only paying $78 a month. Wow. We were paying 20% tax. Wow. That's a big difference, right? $94 for 4 rundown shabby rooms. But you pay $78 for 5 sanitary, nice new rooms, apartments. It's It so often happens that the Negro end up paying a color tax, and this had happened in instances where Negroes had actually confronted the Uish as the landlord or storekeeper or what have you. And I submit again that the tensions of the irrational statements have been made are a result of these confrontations. I think the only answer to this is for all people to condemn injustice wherever it exists. We have found injustices in the black community. We have found that some black people, when they get into business, if they don't set them straight, can be rascals, and we condemn them. I think when we find example of exploitation, it must be admitted. That must be done in the Uish community too. He was saying the same thing. They didn't admit to their atrocities. I think our responsibility in the black community is to make it very clear that we must never confuse some with all, and certainly in SELE, we have consistently condemned anti-Semitism. We have made it clear that we cannot be the victims of the notion that you deal with one evil society by substituting another evil. We cannot substitute one tyranny for another. And for the black men to be struggling for justice and then turn around and be anti-Semitic is not only a very rational course, but it's a very immoral course. Whatever we have seen anti-Semitism, we have condemned it with all of our might. We have done it through our literature. We have done it through our statements that I personally signed. And I think that's all about all that we can do as organizations to vigorously condemn anti-Semitism whenever it exists. On the Middle East crisis, we have had various responses. The response of some of the so-called young militants, again, does not represent the position of the vast majority of Negroes. There are some who are color consumed and they see a kind of mystique in being colored, and anything non-colored is condemned. We do not follow that course in the Southern Christian Leadership Conference, and certainly most of the organization's civil rights movement do not follow that course because look what they own by. I think it is necessary to say that what is basic and what is needed in the Middle East is peace. Peace for Israel is one thing, peace for the Arab side of that world is another thing. Peace for Israel means security, and we must stand with all our might to protect this right to exist. I'm going to get back to that in a minute. It's territorial interrogate. I see Israel, and never mind saying it, as one of the great outposts of democracy in the world, and a marvelous example of what can be done, how desert land can be transformed into an oasis of brotherhood and democracy. Peace for Israel means security, and that security must be a reality. You know what I'm saying? Like, so even though King probably saw some error in his ways towards the end, but he still proclaimed us to be an ally to these same people before he died. Right? Like it's a like there's a lot of gray area here without the King here. He just stated how these people be overcharging them, how they be treating them, how they're treating the people in the community. At the same time, he's still riding down for them. And we see right here, and this is his response. This is his words. On the other hand, we must see what peace for the Arabs means in a real sense of security on another level. Peace for the Arabs means a kind of economic security that they so desperately needed. These nations, as you know, are part of a third world of hunger, of disease, and illiteracy. I think that as long as these conditions exist, there will be tensions and there will be endless quest to find scapegoats. So there will be a need for a Marshall Plan for the Middle East, where we lift those who are at the bottom of the economic ladder and bring them to the mainstream of economic security. This is how we try to answer the question and deal with the problem in the Southern Christian Leadership Conference. And I think that represents the thinking of all of those in the Negro community, by and large, who have been thinking about this issue in the Middle East. And let you know, you should really look into the history of the so-called Middle East before 1948. That place was thriving, right? Like, it wasn't just a whole bunch of illiterate, poor people living there. It was a whole nation. They had a whole culture, and they were building. There was a lot of building during that time that all halted when they got invaded by these people right after World War II. Right? But anyway, look at the Rabbi's response after all that Dr. King had said. This is his immediate response from the Rabbi. Thank you very much, Dr. King. Perhaps we could share a few questions related to some of the domestic issues of poverty, accompanied by about the current report. The current report recommendations are implemented, will it make a difference? And what's your opinion on the report of the current commission? Now, at all he said here, he went straight on to the next question here. He didn't apologize or trying to get clarity about get empathy about his experiences of being ripped off by his own people in the black community, by the Jewish landlords and shopkeepers. He didn't mention any of that. He went straight into the next question, straight into it. So they let you know. So to me, they let you know the type of conversation that is. And today, you see the same type of conversation. It's very one-sided here. You know, so I mean, Dr. King is being kind here. Like I can tell he was treading lightly in his response. You know, just giving those couple of examples there, and then come right back and saying that these people have the right to this and get peace in this land. You know, but oftentimes people don't really think about like, okay, World War II was horrible, but when the Nazi Germany did to people in these camps was horrible, and so as doing horrible things, they must pay reparations. But here's the thing, because as I checked, it was Nazi Germany that put them in camps, not Palestinians. So why the Palestinians had to pay with their land and not the Germans, right? Like, why nobody questioned why didn't Germany give them land instead of reparations? Why it had to go into the Middle East when Palestine had nothing to do with what happened during this Holocaust, right? But instead, as the history goes, Germany was split in half between East and West Germany, controlled by the U.S. and the USSR at the time, in Russia, right? So you see how they're spinning the narratives here. So going back to here, what you're seeing here, to this right here, he took this whole quote out of context and ran with it, and once again, just put it into position like, okay, well, how celebrities, put these black celebrities in position that they speak for everybody in our community, which they don't, right? Because honestly, man, like even Kyrie Irving, okay, yeah, he admits that he's Semitic, yeah, he admits, he learned some things from watching the documentary, but he also still the guy that believes in all religions, so he's still in La La Land as far as I'm concerned, and he's going through it. I really don't have any feelings for either of them, to be honest. Like I'm really on the sideline watching objectively how everything playing out here. And what I'm seeing here from Ye is, this is the man he's just tired of it all. Like he's been in the system for 2 decades plus now, and finally got the best of him. And I'm telling what he saw, because like, man, people don't realize how evil this world is, and especially like the wealthier you get, the more evil you get. Like, I'm not a real big fan of Vice News, but they do have some interesting videos on their YouTube sometimes. Like, I don't know if y'all have seen like the series where that person who's anonymous, they black out their face and disguise their voice, and they talk about their experiences for working for wealthy people and how sick their minds are. These elite peoples are like it was a guy who used to work on a yacht for a wealthy guy, and the sick orgies and parties and some crap they used to do. It was done when we worked in a fancy hotel overseas, and how these guys rent out the whole hotel, do despicable stuff on people, or you may have heard about what some of the wealthy people do in Dubai to some of the models over there. It is these people. They had nothing but money, and after a while, they don't know what else to do with it, and they just get sick. To even get to that type of wealth, your morality is thrown out the window, first of all, and that's another thing people know. For me, that black people had to get in their mind. Like I remember when I had the magazine, and I interviewed these young black guys, and the young black businessmen, and these were some cool guys that had great ideas, and they had this whole tech company thing going on, the tech startup they were working on. And I remember like these guys telling me they wanted to be the next Jay-Z. And even back then, even for me knowing the things I know now, I was just like thinking like, I knew enough to know that these guys don't know what the price they paid for Jay-Z to be where he's at. Cause Ye finally admitted to it. Like it's no way you get to that level of wealth and have a sense of morality to you. It's all about exploitation. Like you have to do evil to attain that amount of wealth. That's how the system is built. And the way you be the good guy and be a billionaire, I just don't see it. And I can speak that just about anybody. Now, can you live well and be wealthy? Yeah, sure. But I just feel like there's a level that once you cross that level, you cross that line there, like I said, especially like billionaire status. Oh, morality is thrown out the window. It's no way in hell you keep your sanity and be a billionaire and then move around in those circles. and around those people. It's I don't think we realize how dark a place this country really is, or how dark this world really is. Like like I haven't been watching like any TV to be honest with you, man, because like nothing like been holding my attention, but holding my interest. But I did watch this documentary on YouTube today about Qatar. 'Cause they hosting the World Cup, and the journalist did a deep dive into you know how they got the infrastructure built so fast, and and what the country did was they sent out recruiters to other countries, nearby countries, for cheap labor. They went out to Nepal, Pakistan, Egypt, and some other places, and they go down and they don't go to the cities. They go to the poor villages where they people that's dirt poor and desperate, and tell them like, yo, you come to Qatar, and Dubai does the same thing. It's opportunity, you get a job and get higher wages, and here's the hustle. And then for them to offer them a job, they gotta pay to get that job. You asking poor people to pay you to give them a job. So, because since they are poor, they getting the high interest loans to make that payment, and then they make the payment, they get transported to this country to build up the infrastructure, and then they live in these disgusting conditions. Modern day slavery, basically what it is. And it's going on around the world here. Even in America, and I think, and all, it is amazing how you get these wealthy people committing so much evil and so many of these atrocities, and since they can also control the media, we're the bad guys. Like everywhere you look, I get seeing article after article for the past couple of months now. It's for like how black people are the bad guys, how black men are the bad guys, and we don't hold the power to do any of this. We don't even do any of these things, And then and we got these and some of our own people coning out, like Michael Eric Dyson, Tiffany Cross, Roland Martin, like the list. It's a long list. Charles Barkley, Shaquille O'Neal, like the list is long. How they use our own people, and then their decision to be coned out. Like nobody forced them. They made a decision to be the allies to white supremacy, and they joined them to demonize us. And it's tiring. I'm just so sick of it. I'm just, and I just feel like as bad people, if you're not pissed off yet, you're not there yet. Like I just don't see it. And then and I just feel like, we might get upset for a minute, and then you go back to feeling like you're feeling like everything's normal again. Like how many of you about to celebrate Thanksgiving this week? And I'm like, yeah, we can justify saying, oh, this is a day you had with family, but we still celebrating their culture, right? And then next month you got Christmas. We said, we put to take so much pride in who we are and so much pride in our culture. We got some, people, we got a lot more people on Twitter talking about FBA this, FBA that. Be proud of who you are, true enough. But how you take so much pride in who you are and you go and then go right back to celebrating their culture. Everything they celebrate, everything that's about every holiday that Americans celebrate is about the oppression of somebody else. Thanksgiving was a slaughter. Christmas, we got all this pagan sexual rituals going on. Easter's the same thing. Valentine's Day, like all the things had these evil origins that we partake in, and we get our kids to partake in. Halloween, and then we try to justify with Hallelujah Night, or even with Christmas, like we just can't shake it. We want to sit here and be happy and admit, okay, yeah, we are Israel, yeah, we are special, and still do some of the same thing as our oppressors do. You know what I'm saying? And then then you got some trying to make up a holiday, Aratus, how you pronounce that? Trying to make up a holiday and do that on the 24th instead of Christmas. You still celebrating with them, You still trying to be, we don't want to separate ourselves from the enemy. And until we get to that point, we're going to keep falling for the same old mess, the same playbook here. Because we don't get it, because we can't play nice with these people. These people will never play nice with us. They'll never see us as equals. And that's a problem. You're trying to be the equal instead of dominating and being in charge, because that's the only way they're going to heal. Because we can only get our freedom back the same way they took it from us at the end of the day. And until we get that mindset, you know, we could continue being in this cycle of this foolishness here, you know. But yeah, I just expect this broadcast to be this long, to be honest. I just want to cover the article real quick. I know I kind of went on rant of my own and just give some of my personal thoughts to everything. And this, you know, I just want people to think, great. There's so many layers to unfold as these different things, and realize, you know, don't forget who the real enemy is and what the biggest distractions are. And then, sometimes I feel like, you know, we won't put so much hatred towards, like I said, towards like other black immigrants or whatever. But like, I don't really see them as a threat. Our threat are our own people, like Mark Eric Dyson. We got a lot of them, even within our own families. We have a lot of them. You know, those throwback. And then like, I know the code supposed to be the leader, but but where is that code? How many people really read that code? And at the end of the day, yeah, someone will have to lead the charge. But what we have today is like, we don't even have these leaders today. Like man, have y'all said any Twitter Spaces in the past couple months? It's foolishness here, you know. Like, yeah, I mean, we living through some wild times right now. It's a lot of things unfolding right now. It's a lot going on because like, if we get distracted by these articles and people demonizing us and the antics by these celebrities, do you know that North Korea doing missile testing right now off their coast to show off their nuclear capabilities, and then the U.S. and South Korea responded by flying their hypersonic bombers. They're peacocking right now. They always do this before a war breaks out. Like, these aren't happening right now. People smell blood over here in America, man, because America is so weak right now. They got us killing our own, getting our numbers down. It's so much going on, and I just wish more people would do what me and Keith are doing. We staying quiet. Sometimes you just gotta shut up and listen. Just listen to what's going on around you. Read what's going on around you. Right now, I see too many people want to talk, and want to be heard, and they're not saying anything. And I think this is a time to be really pay attention to what's going on around you, because there's a lot going on, But anyway, I don't want to hold you. I appreciate y'all. Also, I wonder if I had the link still up or not. I can show y'all real quick. This week only on I closed the link. Yeah, we as part of our broadcast here, we also we created some pamphlets, like little mini magazines called "The Bible is Black History," and so after we designed it and everything, the publisher MadCloud, they doing a Black Friday special, all week long. And so what they doing right now is, now this thing just want to try to bring up the link for y'all real quick. I'm doing this on a whim because I do not feel like editing anything. But anyways, yeah. But I put it in the community. But the pamphlets are $5 each normally. Right now, use the code BF25. There you go. Finally pops up. And use the code BF25. You get 25% off our print copies. Right here, because this is not us. These two are us. So we have 2 issues here. But the digital copies are completely free still. Like I say, it's not about the money for us. We just really want to try to get the word out. So I put the link in the community already. But the Curses and the Blessings Volume 1 and the 10 Commandments Volume 2, and basically, we break down the 10 Commandments and how it relates to us today. How it's relevant today. And it's very high quality publications. So you want to buy a physical copy, you can, 25% off with BF25. Or you just go to the link and you can download a free copy and read it for free. That is completely fine. But I think I got the email about the sale. I thought I'd just pass it along. Besides that, Keith's got rants dropping every Wednesday evening for the next 4 weeks, I think. So it shows you over. Like I say, you can also catch us, reach out to us on 6-0s. We do watch your comments here on YouTube. You can catch us on Twitter, whatnot. But just let me know your thoughts on everything. Definitely. And I hope y'all enjoyed this. I did this on a whim, so that's why I was kind of like scatterbrained and tired. I worked all day, but it was fresh in my mind, and I thought I'd just do a quick broadcast about it real quick. But I appreciate y'all. I hope you have a great week. Y'all stay safe. Shalom.